Hi, everybody. This is Dear Mama Sal, and we are live on a Friday lunchtime, which means it's time for us to talk about coping with feelings. And this is a particularly big subject for me this week because um, this is the 1 year anniversary, well, yesterday was, of the fire in my home. And I see Jeannie's here. And Jeannie, I'm hoping that between us we can let people know the lessons we have learned from having a big fire like that. So maybe you'd like to just jot down a couple of notes so when we get to that section, we can give our experiences. And I wish I had type stuff, you know. And hi to Jody. Jody is our admin. And for those of you who know, she does a wonderful job at looking after me in terms of everything. And I'm really appreciative. And that's through thick and thin. She's, as you will hear, she's had some challenges herself. And therefore, all the more impressive. So a really good feelings broadcast today. We have a subject, a question that came in from a viewer um, that I want to tackle. I've got a light that's strobing a little bit here. Let me know if, no, actually, I don't think that's good for my eyes to have it strobing like that, so I'm going to turn it off. I just, think about that. All right, so I'm hoping that we can have a nice interactive broadcast so that we can get as much done as possible. I want to just try and lift the screen up a bit, which is difficult. Come on now. I'm already standing with my legs splayed like this to try and get in screen today. Oh, I know what it is. I'm wearing different shoes. I'm not wearing my flat Birkenstocks. I'm wearing and they've got a bit of a heel on them, and that's why I'm a little bit. I know what to do. Hold on one second, everybody. This is called make a plan. So I'll find something. A change of season. Welcome to fall. Okay, let me just do this. There we go. I just put something underneath the bottom of the computer to lift it up. So here we go. Of course, and now I can't read my notes here. It's going to be one of those days, isn't it? Something smaller, so you can do this. There we go. Maybe. We'll see. All right, make a plan. So, looking forward to it. Our first quote. And I thought it very relevant to the quotes today, by the way, will be on two different subjects. Some of them will be about forgiving ourselves, and the others will be about survival. Forgiving ourselves for the person who sent the question, and about survival for reminding you that, Jeannie and I went through hell and back, and we're still here. So forgiving yourself, this is the quote, forgiving yourself is as important as forgiving others. Guilt is toxic. Reliving the mistakes over and over. Love yourself. Forgive yourself. If there's no doubt about it in my mind that the most difficult thing in our lives is to forgive ourselves for things over which we cannot have any more control. And I'm certain that there isn't a viewer that's watching either now in the chat or in the background here, or maybe on the replay. I don't believe there is a single viewer that can't think of things that they did in their life that they wish they hadn't. Things that they said in their life that they wish they could take back. You see, that is what it is all about. The forgiving ourselves is so important, so incredibly important. And if you can do that and move on, you will have a happy life. If you want to hold on to it, nobody can stop you. That's what I always say. Nobody can stop you, right? You choose to hold on. As we say every single week at this broadcast, feelings are things under your control. You might not want to hear that. You might want to think that it's out of my control, but it is within our control. If it's in our feelings, all right? And that is, I think, a really important lesson. How long, pain is inevitable, suffering is a choice. Jeannie's saying, this was a hard lesson for me to learn. As a Virgo, I am my own worst critic, but I learned that it starts with me, so I can then forgive others. Well, as a fellow Virgo, Jeannie, now why are we saying as a Virgo? Because we are picky people. And it's funny, I say we're picky people, but that really is what we're most known for. But if you, like anybody else, all right, if you use their pickiness well, it's a great talent. I've said to you time and time again, my very dear friend Yvonne is OCD, and that is the greatest gift anybody could give me. And you're probably going, why, Sal? Well, because she has a photographic memory and OCD. So whenever anything happens and I need to check when did it happen, I just text Yvonne and ask her, because I know she'll remember. All right, so Jane is saying very picky, Virgos, a virtue in business, but not so good in other ways. Well, I think the interesting thing, Jeannie, and you've probably discovered this as well, is if we learn to deal with it, all right? And my feeling is about being Virgo is there are a lot of incredibly good traits about being a Virgo. But it's funny, isn't it? The one that everybody thinks about is the fact that we're picky. Now, Jody has worked with me for umpteen years as my admin. And, Jody, how picky am I? And Yvonne will tell you the same thing. I actually am picky when it matters. In other words, on things like contracts. And for example, I have to sign off on the insurance. I'm going to be signing off on the insurance this coming week. And I noticed that they've only got 2 of my 3 names on the contract. And I'm just busy checking at the moment as a legal document. I think I need to have all my official names on that document. They can't just drop one because their form doesn't allow for the fact that I have 3 names before my surname. All right, so there we go. Jeannie's now admitting that she is also a great and faithful friend, and that her word is always good. Yes, your integrity is excellent. So you look at that and you go, we Virgos have lots of good things about us. Anyway, moving on, because this is not about horoscopes today. Remember to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. The reason is because we put up updates on people there. And if we have to cancel a broadcast or something, that's where I'll let you know. Just remember that any views that you may hear are my own. I do not have a doctorate in anything. I am not a psychiatrist, psychologist, So anything that you may hear from me has to do with the fact that I've lived it or that I've researched it a little bit. And I say that because, it's important to understand why I say the things that I do, because normally there is a good reason. Bear Grylls said, survival can be summed up in 3 words. Never give up. That's the heart of it, really. Just keep trying. And as you know, we've got a number of our viewers that we pray will never give up. All right, they've got some tough stuff that's come up in their life. And I want to make sure that we keep reminding them to never give up, because the chances are they will probably outlive us. I don't know what the weather's like where you live, but I can tell you that here in southern British Columbia, where I live, the high winds have started, which means things I thought were quite safe where they are not. They are, moving. Get up in the morning and I go, where did that come from? Oh, we must have had a high wind last night. Jimmy Chin said about fear. Fear is always there. It's a survival instinct, right? You just need to know how to manage it. And I would like to say that, Jeannie, I am pretty certain that you had the same reaction as I did when the fire happened. I wasn't sure I was going to survive this. The strain of it. Would I be able to cope with it all? And so that is a really, important thing. Jody's saying, I love that you're picky. It's has upped my game all around. I am paying attention to every detail that has made a meaningful difference in my life. It's serving me well. Thank you for that. Could you give us an example, Jody, so that people understand where that benefited you? And Jeannie is saying, as soon as we moved back in, we discovered multiple electrical problems. When our contractor refused to help us, we finally recently sent a certified letter to him saying that he needed to help us. There you go. All right. So he can't say he didn't get it. So you've learned a lot, I must say, Jeannie. I love the fact that you are so proactive on all of this. So today I just wanted to say that, it's really amazing how the weather has changed. Welcome to fall. And how many of you agree with this quote? It says, and here you are, living despite it all. And I think that is such a good quote for those of you who have struggled or are still struggling, all right? That every day I'd like you to wake up and go, well, here you are, in spite of it all. Very important. And so Jeannie is saying that on that letter that she sent, she also sent copies to the city and state department, that deal with electrical stuff. Well done. That's called, the Better Business Bureau needs to probably be on that list as well, maybe, if you're doing it that way. Thoughts and prayers. I wanted to give an update on Sharon. For those of you who know Sharon, one of our viewers, Sharon had to go through a medical procedure this week, and everything seems to be fine. Nothing surprising came up. In other words, she didn't find out anything new, anything that she didn't already know, and that is really great. Hi, Charlotte. I hope you had a great birthday. We're just going to get to that in a second. So good to see you here. Oh, so Jody is saying as her example, you remember I said, give us an example so we can put legs on this one. She said, for instance, in my medical records, I keep even more detailed journals and recaps of appointments. My doctor has thanked me for several times, and when I give her paperwork from year to year, I always include a copy of the previous year's paperwork that she can refer back to. She said it saves her so much time. Exactly. There are times, as I said, that if you have that ability, I know that my realtor said my ability to read a real estate contract was actually scared them almost, because I was picking up things that they I know at one point I picked up something that nobody had noticed anywhere ever. And I said, I need clarification at this point. And they went, wow, nobody has ever asked that question before. But, I do read documents and I do read the fine print. I hope you all do as well. There are times when you'll be amazed what they've got hidden in the small print if you don't bother to read it. Charlotte saying she had quite the birthday present. But she broke a bone in my tooth to the jaw. Wow. What on earth were you eating that you cracked a tooth? I've done it, so I know. Luckily, when I did it with one that was already capped. So it wasn't, necessarily excruciatingly painful because the nerve had gone. But boy, I remember doing it. Yeah, Jeannie's saying never again will I look at fire engines and ambulances in the same way. Yeah, we'll talk more about that in a second. So Lee Bisaglia said, love yourself, accept yourself, forgive yourself, and be good to yourself. Because without you, the rest of us are without a source of many wonderful things. Yeah, if you don't want to hang on and and be happy for yourself, please do it for us because we need you. And I think that is such a incredibly true quote, and one of the reasons why I like Leah Pesaglia. Jody gave us a medical update. She's been going through a tough time recently. She has had a flu. But nobody wants to have the flu anymore because automatically people think that it's COVID. But she said, I'm on the mend, just resting, hydrating. Tylenol is keeping things in check. It's managing to keep her temperature to just on about 99.9 or 99.8. It's just hovering there. I hope that it's a bit better today. But of course, she's still here. Not severe enough to be a real flu. It's flu to me, Jody. I wonder what her temperature needs to be for it to be flu. What does your temperature need to be for it to be flu? All right, so Charlotte's saying, I wasn't eating. My bite is bigger than my bark. Wow, I clenched my teeth, and I didn't realize how much my teeth have shifted. She's on penicillin, and the tooth has to go, yes. Interesting. And Kimmy's saying that she's going to go onto keto. Something? I admire anybody that wants to do that. One of the things that I have discovered for me is that I needed to have a lifestyle change, not a diet change necessarily all on its own. In other words, I want a diet I can live with and be happy with, right? I don't want a diet, and that is a lifestyle thing. And so I think it's wonderful if you can find something that works for you. I found keto to be a little too limiting for me to be able to keep to it on an ongoing basis. And I will talk about that a little bit more. I wanted to give our thoughts and prayers to Jan. She lost a brother this week, her hero. And I just wanted to let her know that we are thinking of her. And here is a quote for all of you in that situation. Remember to live while you're busy surviving. Because I think whenever we have a loss like that, we go into survival. We forget to live, right? We're so busy trying to just keep together. And, it's a very difficult time. Erin had a biopsy, and we're waiting for results probably this week, I think. And Bernice, we still send you hugs, but she had a break-in of her storage locker and lost a lot of things. As we said, it was Charlotte's birthday yesterday, and it was also the anniversary of my fire. And we have got another birthday coming up, which will be Andrea in Berlin. It'll be her birthday on the 30th, which is actually the birthday of my mother in heaven. If there are any other birthdays this week that we have not mentioned, please let us know so that we can add it to our list. Charlotte's saying, I can't believe that the fire was the same day as my birthday. Yeah, I actually thought originally that the fire was today, the 24th. But I looked back on the documents, and the documents say it was the 23rd. And I've got a feeling that those guys probably had it better documented than I did. All right, so Charlotte is updating us. She said, but I did get a birthday lobster roll with my favorite wharf in my dad, and he presented me with half an 8-inch round cake for dessert. How about that? You know something? A lobster roll is so good, isn't it? And she's in Eastern Canada, just so that you know. In New Brunswick, I think. Charlotte, just help me. Yeah. But she's in, that part of the world. So she's in Canada, but far east of Canada. I want to thank Lynn for the little pictures that we put up, the thumbnails that we put up to announce the broadcast coming up. Oh, I got it right. I've still got a mind. Yes, it is. She does come from New Brunswick. You've never heard of a lobster roll? Well, it's just a really nice roll, but it's got lobster and mayo and all sorts of good stuff in it. And anybody that is anywhere near that, Jeannie's area, Maine or New Brunswick or any of that eastern seaboard higher up there, they live on really good lobster, I want to tell you. I was delighted for one stage of my life. I actually was dating a guy from Maine. And my greatest joy was, he kept wanting to show off the Maine lobster. And I'm going, be my guest, take me anywhere so I can have lobster. Yeah, I love lobster. Not everybody likes seafood. I understand that. How about this one? Alison Malaya said, choose every day to forgive yourself. You are human. You are flawed. And most of all, you are worthy of love. And remember that Alison started that quote with the word choose. That we choose every day to be happy or miserable. We like to say, oh, it's out of my control, but it isn't. Kimmy, I wanted to give our thoughts and prayers to you as well. I know that you're letting go of puppies now. And I can imagine how attached you got to those puppies. And just see it as a lesson of being a good mother. I say to people, the Gilbrain, when he wrote The Prophet, said, our children are given us on loan. And I think the same is with our puppies, right? We are we are given the joy of watching their first few weeks on earth. And then, we need to let them go to their forever homes. But, Kimmy, that doesn't stop the pain, does it? And I'm hopefully that you are enjoying meeting the people that will give them new homes and maybe make some new friends. See it as an opportunity. Interesting. Charlotte saying, for those of you who don't know what a lobster roll is, it's lobster cut up on a hot dog bun. Yes, but it's got good stuff in it as well. I seem to remember it was something about, the mayo and everything else that was there that it dripped. It's a messy thing to eat. So that's it. And by the way, I wanted, for those of you who know Trina in Ireland, she's got her 50th coming up in November. So we'll talk more about that as we go along. So I'd like to move on to our viewer's story, because I'm certain that a lot of you will not only relate to it, but also want to send many thoughts and prayers to this particular viewer. The question that was asked was this. And by the way, before I get on to it, if any of you have a question that you'd like me to handle in a broadcast, not necessarily using your name, that is your choice. But if any of you have a question like that, please write to me at DearMamaSal@gmail.com. and I will do my best to add it to my list of topics that I am handling. And so here was what we heard. How do I deal with memories of the last time seeing someone before they passed? The memories were negative. I wonder if any of you have had that experience where you went to see somebody who, was passing, and the experience was negative and you never got to see them again. And I'd like to know, for those of you who are in the chat at the moment, or maybe those of you who are listening or watching this later, what is your instant reaction to that when you hear that? Because I think it's really important for us all to feel what that is like, or at least try to imagine what that is like, because we will never feel exactly the same way. Charlotte's saying grief is a mind game, a journey that continues way past the death. Yes, and imagine that the last time you saw somebody, Charlotte, you had words with them, or they had words with you. I don't have enough information to tell you which way around it was, but it was not, and whether even that was what the negative thing was. I don't know whether the image that they saw was the negative one. I didn't get that sort of information, but I can't help but feel great love for that person. Kimmy will make a note of that. All right, I'll ask Jody to take a screenshot and we will add that in. So here is the input that I have. We cannot change what has gone before. All right, we cannot change that. No amount of tears will change that. No amount of anger will change that. No amount of self-flagellation, beating up on yourself, is going to change what happened. But it is interesting how long we choose to suffer for. I said that already. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is a choice. All right, so let me just read some of the comments here. Charlotte saying, keep moving and work through it at each step. Yes, it's like there's a reason why that happened, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a second. Jeannie's saying York being her husband, ex-wife, died recently. He felt nothing special, but felt bad for his 2 adult children. He wanted to know if it was okay not to feel much. Something? That's a good question, right? And Jeannie's saying, I told him those were real feelings and he was entitled to. Yes. I want to tell you, when I got the call that my mother had died, I'm pretty certain my brother was stunned, but my reaction was, thank God. And you're probably thinking, boy, that was pretty cold. No, it wasn't. She was a very active person. When I say active, she was very strong person in a lot of ways. And she had spent 4 years being bedridden. And she was not happy, not happy at all. And so to me, the fact that she'd passed was a gift. And I never did cry. I was sad that she passed, obviously, but I talked to her all the time. She's not gone. But I was sad that she passed, but I never did cry. It was about, she had done her time. And I was grateful that God had chosen to take her out of what was a miserable existence for her. So we all see it in different ways. Excuse me. I'm going to just go through a couple of bits here for that viewer. What we know, how we always say, if you're trying to process feelings and get on with stuff, work on thinking like a lawyer. And what a lawyer does, he takes away the emotion and just deals with the facts. So let's deal with the facts that this viewer had, all right? Number one, somebody was dying. That's a fact. And I'm presuming that I'm correct in this, that number two, the viewer went to see that person. Something caused the viewer to either say or hear something negative during that meeting. And four, the dying person passed before that could be corrected in any way. So let's talk about the feelings of how that would affect you. Because I think it's really important that we understand we can all have this happen. We could have an argument with a friend who, gets in a car accident tomorrow, and you never got a chance to apologize. All right. And that's really, really important that we understand these things can happen. Yeah, Kimmy is giving an example here. Kimmy's saying, I was crying when my mother was passing, and her sister told my sister, her sister and my sister told me to leave. They didn't want anyone crying. I was stunned. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? How other people want to tell you how to feel, that you're meant to be strong for the dying person. I don't know. I've never been there. I've never been dying and had people around my bed crying or not crying. But, to me, I have a feeling that whatever they were feeling would be okay with me. And I would be able to process the fact, and I'm crying even thinking about it, Kimmy. I'm pretty sure that I would process the fact that they're sad to see me go. And that would be a good thing. So I'm certain that hurt you horribly at the time. But you know something, Kimmy, and it's something that I want you to remember. Very few people are capable of handling feelings, all right, good or bad. Or rather, they can only deal with good feelings. They can't deal with bad ones. And when I say bad ones, there's nothing bad about crying when you're sad. That's not a bad thing. But how many people see it that way? No, we got to be strong for so and so. Why? Why have we got to be strong for so and so? I don't think so. I don't know about you, and some of you may have done this or be recipients of this. I get really angry when people decide what I can and cannot handle. For example, they would say, well, this happened last week, but I didn't want to tell you last week because you were dealing with other stuff. That makes me angry. Not many things make me angry, but that does. Because what you are saying in that, I know, I hear the love, but what you're saying in that is you didn't think I could cope. Does that make sense? And so, Kimmy, what happens is a lot of people can't do that. They seem to want to rule the universe and say that they would rather that you pretended that you were fine. And you're not like that. You don't like to pretend. You're a very authentic person. And now Kimmy's saying, at the funeral, I didn't cry. I just sat there silent, and they asked me if I was okay. And that confused me. Yes. Yes. You can't have it both ways, right, Kimmy? Well done. I like the fact. I hope you actually said that to them, or that you one day will say that to them and say, you completely confused me. When I was being genuine with my feelings, you told me not to cry and to leave the room. And then when we went to the funeral, I didn't cry, and then I was still wrong. That confused me. Right? Quite honestly, Kimmy, we have to call people on these things every now and then. But I can imagine how hurt you must have been, and I am so sorry for you. So let me just carry on with this story from the viewer. Did you consider that the things might have needed to be said? right? That's what I tried to think of. Wait a minute, because I don't believe there are coincidences. All right, as you know, I'm a great believer in everything happens for a reason. But what if those things, if that's what happened, needed to be said? Is it possible, let's say, if the dying person said something nasty, is it possible that the dying person needed to tell that truth before they met their maker? Can you see that that could be a possibility? Or that the 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 viewer might have needed to tell their truth on something, and otherwise they would live with that for the rest of their lives. You see, I can see that from both ways. Can you? Now, I'm pretty certain if there were other people in the room, lots of judgments would have gone on. And they will live with those judgments, as Kimmy has, right? They will live with those judgments for a long time. But, it's not between them. It's between you and your God, whoever you may choose that to be. So, a couple of questions. Can words ever be taken back? I don't care how much you apologize. I don't care how much you grovel or whatever. The truth is, nasty words can never be taken back. And boy, I want to tell you, I refuse to get into situations now where I need to say nasty words. All right? I will walk away rather than say nasty words to people now, because I don't really need to anymore. I think I have grown that much. I realize it's not for me to change anybody else. I can try to educate people, but it's not for me to change anybody else. I cannot change anybody. They need to choose whether they want to change or not. Jeannie's saying that a dear friend was in hospital dying, and I stayed with him for a long time. I was like a daughter to him. After he died, I was so happy I had been there for him when he needed somebody. Yes, that's a great gift, isn't it? I know if ever I go to visit somebody in hospital, I know this sounds really weird, but some of you won't be surprised. But if I go to visit somebody in hospital, after I finish visiting them, I will go to the nursing station and ask, is there anybody here that needs a visitor, before I go? And normally they're really quick to tell me, yes, the lady in 32A or something. And I go, okay, thank you. And I will just go there and I will go visit. And I go, hi, I know you don't know me, but the nurses tell me you haven't had a visitor for a while. So I thought I'd come and say hi. And, the first reaction is normally quite, concerned. And, what are you doing here? And who are you? And da, da, da. And I go, no, I'm just a human being. But I thought I'd come and just talk to you for a while, if that's okay. And, what's going on, what's happening, and doing those sort of things. Yeah, Jody's saying, Sal, I'm thinking about the holes in the fence story. All right, it's been a while, but that one stuck with me. Yes, that's a story about a young boy whose father said to him that every time you say something nasty to somebody, I want you to go and take a nail and put it in the fence. And the boy realized how many nails he put in. All right, and then when he done about a month of that, the father said, now every time you say something nice, take out one of the nails. And he said, oh, okay. And so what he did was he took out nails, but there were still holes in the fence. You can't change that. Now, it's a good thing to remember, right? We cannot undo nastiness. Jeannie's saying my father-in-law disliked me because I started out Jewish. He refused to have a funeral. I decided to have people over at our house for their closure. It really helped everybody. Yeah. I have no, I think there's a difference between a funeral and a wake, right? whatever you want to call those. Um, a funeral is normally in a building and it's religious, whereas a wake is a group of friends who all knew the person and have stories to share. So I think that's a great idea. Something, Jeannie, I said to Doug, hey, Doug, if I'm going out, do me a favor. Let's do that before I die so I can hear the fun stories. Because, don't you think it's sad that we wait until after somebody's died to tell those stories? So do you think that the viewer or the dying person, do you consider them a bad person for telling their truth if that is what happened? But can you see that even though you may not think that's a bad thing necessarily, that other people will judge? And by the way, have you noticed the sort of people who will judge that? And so, to me, it's really a really sort of difficult call. But if we can build that boundary where what other, remember, what other people think of me is none of my business, right? If we can build that boundary, hey, you can think about me whatever you like. I know who I am. I know I'm a good person. I know I'm not perfect, but you carry on with your view of me. That's fine. I'm never going to be able to change it. Yeah, Jeannie's saying I've been a Catholic for over 35 years, but it didn't matter to him. No. It's funny, isn't it? They want to hold on to their judgments. And by the way, I always think that's a great mirror. How many judgments am I holding on to that I've had way too long? Yeah, Jeannie's saying I was never rude to him. My mother taught me well. Yeah. But I find, for example, when I find somebody is bad-mouthing somebody, I make a point of saying, hey, I wonder what you say about me when I'm not here. Because I want people to know that if you're the sort of person that's bad-mouths people behind their back, you're probably bad-mouthing me as well. It's just like, and I am smart enough to know that. And how many of you would understand that we need to put on our big girl or big boy pants, take a deep breath and forgive ourselves or the other person? And let's just move on with our lives, all right? We cannot change what has gone. We need to forgive ourselves and move on. And, it's a difficult thing to learn, but it is so important. How about this one? Anne Martine said, I won't let pain turn my heart into something ugly. I will show you that surviving can be beautiful. And so I would pray that the viewer who felt this, the viewer who had this experience, I pray that they will have enough emotional intelligence to know the other person has gone. They surely are not holding a grudge. If they were the person that had the negative reaction, again, I don't know exactly what happened, but they are now dealing with that with people with great love. I like to believe that they are surrounded by angels who are showing them the wisdom that they have learned. And the same way, if you were the one that said the nasty things, then know that you did the best you could on a very difficult day. And I am pretty certain there was an element of I need to tell the truth here attached to it. And that is for you. You needed to tell the truth. Whether it was impolite, whether it was socially unacceptable to somebody else, isn't the point. The point is you needed to tell that truth. You needed to say whatever it was that you needed to say, and I, for one, forgive you for that. Why? Because you need to forgive yourself for that. And I cannot imagine the pain that you have gone through. I don't want to imagine the pain that you've been going through. But remember, it's about a choice. Do you want to choose to carry on feeling that pain, or do you choose to grow? Forgive yourself and just go, hey, I can't do anything about it. It's nails in a fence. I need to move on. Wow. Kimmy's saying, I need to get a big roll of paper and start writing on it everything you just said, Sal, for a reminder. Thank you for that, Kimmy. Choices are difficult to see sometimes, but if you really look deep, you can see it's all about choices. And for any of you that have ever been through therapy, the reason it's so painful is when you start to realize that you had a choice and that you chose one way over another, or you chose not to choose. That's what you thought. But that choice was a choice. And, it's really, really important. Whatever any of you are punishing yourself for, let it go. It's done. You cannot change it. You cannot go on rewind and redo it. So let it go. Maya Angelou said, forgiveness is the greatest gift that you will ever give yourself. And I would like to say forgiveness is the greatest gift you will ever give anybody else. I just won't let other people's bad behavior be around me for too long. In other words, yes, it hurts. Yes, I am angry about it in the short term. But, I process it through and just go, hey, not my stuff, right? What is the expression? Not my circus, not my monkeys, right? It's their problem, not mine. It's only my problem if I take it on. I only need to feel bad if I want to take it on. I don't need to take it on. The fact that they were nasty to me, I can forgive that. I've been there, I've done that. But I am emotionally more intelligent now. I don't have to do that all the time. And so many people judge me for so many things. I don't mind anymore. But I call them on it. And they're good friends of mine that do it, right? And I had something happen this week, and somebody said something, and I called them on it. And I said, hey, didn't you say last week, da-da-da-da-da-da, which is it? I call people on their stuff now, but I do it with humor. But I need them to know I don't ignore it. I hear it, and or if they are snippy with me, whatever, and I said, and I thought you were a friend, Yes, that's interesting. Jeannie's saying, I choose to forgive others in order to be strong in the right ways. Yeah, I think learning to forgive others, I'm pretty certain we all learned that somewhere. For those of us who went to Bible, kindergarten, what do you call it? Sunday school. We all learned about forgiveness, but it didn't really sink in, did it? And we all learned about turning the other cheek. I misunderstood that completely. I thought that meant if somebody was nasty to you, you should turn up so they could do it a second time. I don't know why my mind got that one wrong, but it did. And it took me until I had been abused, that I could actually talk about it and say, but didn't the good book say that I should turn the other cheek? And yeah, no, that's not what they meant. So, okay, fine. So I want to just move on now as we go on with this broadcast. To the 1 year anniversary was yesterday of my house catching fire. And Jeannie, yours is more than that, right? Yours was in May, right? That you had the 1 year anniversary. But we're both back in our homes, and I am this far away from everything being sorted. I have one blind that still needs to be replaced, but it's basically all done, and I can start getting on with the rest of my life. I'd like to think that I'm actually farther ahead in unpacking than I was when the fire happened, which is good. But I was thinking this would be a wonderful opportunity for both Jeannie and I to give some input on what we have learned and what we might wish that you all consider. And so I want to say that the most important thing is, thank goodness that we're both still here. And that York is still here because, both York and Jeannie were in the, actually York was outside, I think, when the fire started, but, and that, Jeannie got her dog out, Misty. All those sort of things are pretty obvious. I am so grateful that I survived. Kimmy's saying, she's just going back a step, she's saying that it's really hard for her to forget and forgive. If you choose to make it hard, Kimmy, it can be. Or you can choose to go, you know something? I've punished myself enough and punished them enough for this. I choose not to have this on my radar anymore. It's enough. And the other thing is, Kimmy, remember this, if you will, that as your emotional intelligence grows, the amount of time it takes you to forgive decreases. In other words, when you first start this process, you will hold a grudge for the longest time. And then as you start to grow as a human, as your emotional intelligence grows, you go, something, whatever. Let them think that, it's fine. In other words, the time it takes, it gets less and less. And Kimmy's saying, I do move on, but it keeps coming back. You mean that they keep coming back and creating more drama? What is it that keeps coming back? Just so I understand. Yeah, so this is the whole thing. So when people continue to create drama in your life, you get to choose. Do I want to have this person in my life, even though they create drama? Some people we can't get rid of necessarily because they are, family. But I want to tell you, that I literally took a 2-year break away from my family at one stage, because every time they spoke to me, they were judging me harshly and doing things. And I just said, hey, you know something? If you want to believe these things about me, then you carry on. I'm not going to be party to it anymore. All right? I need to take a break. And so, that's my choice. And people said, oh, but it's family, you have to forgive. And I said, yeah, I forgive, but I don't have to be punished with it every time they talk to me. And that's what I said. If every time I talk to you, you're going to punish me and make up stuff, then why would I keep talking to you? Yes, Kimmy's saying, no, that's true, Kimmy. Kimmy's saying, I don't have them in my life. I have moved on, but they haven't. Okay, so how are they still in your life? All right, and Janie's saying about the fire, it took 14 months for her to move back. It took me only 6 because I only had the damage. My damage, it didn't destroy the whole house. But she's saying, and York, her husband, actually had 3 mini seizures in July, which was a couple of months later, from the stress, they think. Yes, and this is the whole thing. All right, so I want to say that Jeannie, would it be fair to say, because it's true of me and I wonder if it is of you, that we both had reason to deal with huge losses, both of our security and our possessions? Would that be true? That you feel that you had at the time great loss of security, and what other losses did you feel? I want to tell you that for anybody to 1 minute have a pretty normal life and the next minute you are homeless, that's pretty weird. I hope none of you ever feel that. When I say homeless, it's like I cannot go back into the building again. And then, yes, and then Jeannie is mentioning, and that's my next point, Jeannie, that we had to deal with being displaced and then moving to hotels. I spent my first night with my neighbors, thank God. But then the next day I moved to a hotel. And we lived in hotels, and then we moved on to apartments. But wherever we moved, we were away from our usual way of living. And then Jeannie ended up back at a hotel again because they messed up the dates that she was going to return. So she really, did this back in reverse on the way back. And I want to tell you from my experience, and I'm pretty certain Jeannie will agree with me on this, that it's really nice that you walk into a hotel room and you've got one that's got a small kitchenette in it, because at least you can make a cup of coffee or make a simple meal or whatever. But the funny thing is that gets pretty boring pretty soon. You know what I mean? You got one burner or two and a pot, I'm pretty creative and I'm a good camping person, but after a while I'm going, I really need a decent meal, so I go out to dinner because it's just I didn't want to juggle it anymore. Jeannie was incredibly creative. While she was displaced, she actually entered 2 different cooking competitions just for something to do, and she won both of them, I think. So that is awesome. All right. But what did you learn, Jeannie, from having to cook on a little kitchenette? I learned again how incredibly talented one can be, with sort of stacking things. I think I had 2 pots, but I learned how to stack them. I'd cook in one. It would be like a Dutch oven, and I'd put the lid upside down, and then I put something that just needed heating on top of it in the other pan, and so it was just like it was really good. I learned to bake bread in a saucepan. I'd never done that before, because I do like to bake my own bread. I would also say, without a doubt, that we learned to deal with umpteen documents. And the documents are scary, quite honestly. Yes, I hadn't mentioned, or I was going to say that somewhere here, but I think I've got a note about it. But let's talk about it now. Jeannie's saying huge losses. Yes. We wore other people's clothes for days and had no toothbrushes, etc. Well, I want to tell you that I remember spending the night in the clothes that I wore, and luckily my neighbor gave me something to wear overnight. She lent me a nightgown. That was wonderful. I then must admit that on my way from here next door to the hotel, I stopped in at Walmart and I picked up the basics. I did pick up toothbrushes, some makeup, some basic makeup, some clothes, underwear I knew I was going to need underwear, those sort of things. It was amazing the things that I bought. and it was quite an expense, but I must admit I was very grateful that the insurance company came with a check as soon as I issued them with that receipt. They came within hours. I say hours, maybe 24 hours. And so the thing to know is, if ever you have that, have you got an emergency fund? I was very fortunate that I had an emergency fund because I just sold my house, hadn't I? So that I could walk into Walmart and spend $1,000. And I say $1,000, but I bought the stuff that I knew I was going to need to survive. Over the course of that 2 weeks of living in hotels, I bought what I call the survival stuff. I moved in with the clothes on my back just about, and I moved out with 2 rolling duffel bags. By the way, I really recommend rolling duffel bags. Why? I was able to use them I still use them for so many things. They pack down flat if you haven't got anything in them. But I now use those 2 rolling duffel bags that were my life. I ended up having 2 of them. But I literally pack all my seasonal clothes into them now, and then I roll them away under the bed. And I'm going to, I want to say that I learned that is a great way to store clothes or other things. All right. Jeannie's saying, I learned to make do with less. I learned more and more patience. I learned how to work with insurance too. Yeah, the insurance company. Absolutely. I found, I don't know about you, Jeannie, but on the day of the fire, I was amazed how many times I got asked this, or the 24 hours within the fire, how many different people asked me the same questions about the fire. Now, I know now that they were doing it to ascertain whether or not I had created that fire. All right, I'm pretty sure of that. But I also know that the moment that the fire marshal walked in there and went into my bathroom, he came out with the fan that seized and said, there is no doubt that this is what caused the fire. So I said, so nobody thinks I started it now, right? That's all I wanted to make sure that I knew that they knew that. And that was important. Yes, Janie's saying, I think we were in shock for a while. Yeah, for sure we were, but we were definitely in shock for a while. But, isn't it interesting how we dealt with things even though we were in that much shock? You see, Jeannie, I'd like to give us credit for that. We had important decisions to make, even though we were in shock. I don't know about you, but there were certain things I was being asked to make decisions on, and I said, I don't think I am in a fit place to be making that decision yet. Which is why, they actually did offer me the place I ended up living in, but I wasn't ready to do that move for some reason. And I think it was a good thing, quite honestly, now that I think back on it. Jody's saying, the thought of everything being fine one moment and then the next your entire world is being turned upside down. Your security, your safe place is no longer accessible. That takes a strong person to survive that. You know something, Jody? I think you learn strength, right? It's when I say you learn strength, you don't have any choice in that moment. Actually, yes, we did. I suppose we could have both become screaming Benji idiots, right? Or whatever. But I just kept saying to myself, it is what it is. What's the next step? You will remember, all right, that policeman who was trying to ascertain what had happened, talking to me and saying, do you normally handle stress this well? And I went, what? And he said, you are standing here, that picture I have on the thumbnail of my house with the flames coming out of the top of it. And that was the moment. All right. I took that picture while I was talking to the policeman. I said, excuse me a second, I got to get that. And I took a picture of it. And he said to me, you are standing here watching the flames jump out of your house. And you are talking to me as rationally as if you were at a cocktail party. I just want to know if you normally handle stress like this. And my answer to him was, would screaming, having a heart attack, doing X, Y, would it save anything right now? Yeah, would it make a difference? Would it make a positive difference in any way other than to damage my health? And he said, absolutely not. But how few people are able to control it. So, Jody, I think, yes, you're right. You know, it's a horrific moment in your life where 1 minute everything's fine. I still am amused. I am still amused what I took out of my house and in what order. I've got to tell you that. When I realized I need to get out of the house, I fought it for a while. And for those of you who don't know, I think the funniest thing that two things happened that were really funny. Number one was when I walked into the bathroom where the fire was, I noticed that my toilet seat was on fire. And for some reason, Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire song came to my mind, and I was singing it. I walked into a burning ring of fire. Where did that come from? And that made me laugh until the molten stuff from the ceiling dropped down in front of me. And then I realized I needed a fire extinguisher in a hurry, and I ran, and I was very grateful for the fact that I have two. Do you have fire extinguishers in your house? If not, it saved my house. I ran for the biggest fire extinguisher. And then I did the second thing, which made me laugh afterwards, which is I accidentally, you know what you need to do with those things, right? You need to pull out the pin, and then you point it at the base of the fire and go. Now, for some reason, I was busy trying to work out how to do that when I had the thing facing me and I accidentally pressed the button or the lever. And, I ended up with fire retardant all over me, which in retrospect, it was a very good thing considering I was going in to fight a fire. I know that the fire people told me I should never have done that. I should have just walked out of the house and left it to them. But I knew it was going to take them 15 minutes or so to get to me. And it did. And so in the meantime, I did what I could, which they told me I should not have done. But I said to them, I just bought the place, people. What do you want me to do? Not try and protect it? But, they have to tell me that, right? Jeannie's saying, I asked my church for help. They gave me kitchen basics, especially a step stool to reach the microwave. Yes, amazing. We had to learn how to ask for help again, didn't we, Jeannie? We're pretty independent people, and suddenly asking for help wasn't a choice anymore. It was a necessity. I think it's very important for us all to remember that. Jeannie's saying our neighborhood was amazing during the fire, so kind to us. They gave us gift certificates and food for clothing. I will never forget that I was sitting there on the fire truck while they were taking all my vitals and everything, when a neighbor that I had never met walked out with that blanket to keep me warm. For some reason, the fire people were there in their big jackets and everything else, and I was there in a T-shirt, and it was actually a cold night. And I was cold, but, I had other things on my mind. But, it was, and this neighbor came out and said, here, you look cold. And, I actually asked, I had it cleaned and then returned it to them. And then later when I was talking to them and became more friendly with them, I said, the funny thing was I nearly asked to keep it. And they said, what? And I said, I nearly asked to keep the blanket because it was the one thing that I had other than the clothes that I stood on. And it was my security blanket for those first 2 weeks. I really felt that. And the next day, guess what landed on my doorstep? Amazing what people will do, right? So yes, I had come to this community where I live and I'd hoped to build a community spirit. And I want to tell you that everybody, there was a meeting with a few of us a couple of days ago. And the one thing what somebody said was, hey, Sal, thanks for having the fire. It brought so many of us together. And I said, not my pleasure, but I'm glad it did. And, we now have this little group clique, whatever you like, of people, that, and they nominated that I was going to have a dinner for everybody. That's wonderful how they do this to me. I get voluntold for all sorts of things, but we're doing it on, I think, Remembrance Day. I just got to see what sort of day that is just before, while I think about it. It's a Thursday. Okay. So I'll have lots to talk about the following day, that's for sure. But what they said was, we have become a community, and we women get together and go to lunch once a month, and that's going to happen on Monday. So it is amazing the little things that have happened. And anyway, they decided that we're going to have a potluck at my house on November the 11th, Remembrance Day, so we wouldn't forget. It was just like, they got very quirky sense of humor around here. Jeannie, would it be fair to say that in having the fire, it made us reevaluate what we really needed in a house? In other words, we lost a lot, but now it's a decision of what do I want to rebuy? Now, I must admit that, I think something like 300 boxes of stuff left my house. So, I did get to, have some stuff put away. Jeannie lost everything. And so, if you think about it, we had to make decisions. What do we want to replace? And I agree with you, Jeannie, that was interesting. I didn't replace as much as I thought I would. And Jeannie's saying one woman sent over a terrific picture made by her little son. I kept it for weeks. Yes, things become very, very meaningful. My neighbor gave me a robe. And after I was in a position to be able to rebuy my own robe, I went to return it to her, and she said, "No, that's yours." She refused to let me have it back, or to return it. I'd like to say that we got new things. And it's not the way I would have chosen to get new things, but Jeannie, you got new everything, new bathrooms, new kitchen, new all sorts of things. Is it a better kitchen than you had before? Is it are your bathrooms better than they were before? Were you ever sitting in your house going, I'd really love to redo my kitchen? Or, I'd really like to redo my bathroom? Because you will remember I said that. I had moved into the house and I said, I know it needs a new roof and I definitely need a new bathroom, but I can't afford it yet. But I definitely, need a new bathroom. And, and then guess what? Within a couple of months, they had to be replaced. They had to have the roof redone. By the way, when they redid the roof, they found something going on in my house that could have killed me. I look at the positives that I have learned from this. When they had to pull everything down, all the ceilings came down so that the municipal inspectors could inspect every piece of wiring. Every piece of wiring in this house was checked, and everything was brought up to code. I don't know about you, but not the way I would have chosen to find out that my house is electrically safe. And how much would that add to the value of my home when I go to resell it? Yeah, Jeannie's saying John, who is York's son, went to see the fire results and said he was thankful that we were alive. Yes, we reevaluated. Yes, it's amazing how that happens. I got to now I got to choose the colors of my house. I got to choose a new floor, and the floor had to go throughout the house, not just part of it. I was very grateful for that. They could have said, well, the floor was only damaged to, the back half of the house. from the water damage. And they could have put a line in and just done the second half. But, I was well enough insured that there was no maybe. Because I had a house that had continuous floors, I was very insistent on that, by the way. Do not put in a floor that's got any transitions in it, the piece where it makes it easier for them to do it. I said, the reason I bought this house is because there were no transitions in it. So when I'm old and doddery, that I can get around it with a walker without going over bumps all the time. And that was a really important thing for me. Remember that Jeannie and I did this during the early stages of the lockdown. Now, you're wondering why that would make a difference. Well, people couldn't come and visit us. People couldn't come and make us feel better. It was a very lonely time. Think about that. Normally in times of great stress like this, you've got family and friends who pop over and have coffee with you or do whatever. And people couldn't do that. But, I was so grateful that I had you guys because, yes, I could talk to you and I could tell you what was going on and I could laugh with you or cry with you or do whatever. And you would understand. You were like my virtual family. And for that, I am so very grateful. Imagine if I hadn't been able to do that. I would have been, sitting through the fall and winter very alone. And Ginny, I wonder how you felt about that people couldn't come. Yes, Ginny is saying, she's giving me some feedback, by the way. She said she loves her bathroom with her blue vanity. And she loves the kitchen. Very similar in the living room. We got a special chair just for Misty. Yes, you see, you got to choose new things that suit you better for this time of your life. And that's the thing that surprised me was how little I have put in my bedroom. And then those are the other choices, Jeannie. I'm certain that you had this as well, which is, you need to know you only have this, bucket of money that you can replace everything with. So therefore, you are very careful. I chose not to get very expensive wall units so that I could have a better bathroom. And now I've got a bathroom that looks like it comes out of a 4-star, 5-star hotel. But, I made sacrifices in other places that I'm very happy with. And by the way, that suit me a lot better for the way I live my life. Jeannie's saying she learned to use Marketplace in a big way. Helped us find many items. Yes. And so you look at it and you learn new tricks, right? You learn new talents. I think the most important thing for everybody to remember is we survived. Right? We did it, right? We survived. We survived all that stress. We survived all that loss. We survived all that isolation. We survived it all. And Jeannie, I know that you had to cope with a lot more than I did. And, I am so in awe of how you managed to do it. You did well. You did well. But, we also knew it was time that, no amount of tears and anger and frustration was going to change what happened. It is gone, right? And what we needed to do was learn very quickly to move on, because dwelling in the past wasn't going to help us one little bit. Concentrating on the future wasn't necessarily going to help us. I never dreamt it would take 6 months for me to get back home and then another 6 just to get the deficiencies done. Yes, Jeannie's saying when York was taken to hospital for the many seizures, he went alone. They let him out at 2:30 a.m. without money. All right? Yeah, it's amazing the things that happened during that time. I had two people that I love dearly lose people in their lives, and I would have been there in a heartbeat, but it was pandemic, so I couldn't. I also know that I was smart to totally over-insure this place. I didn't know what I should be insuring it for, so I insured it for as much as I could. And that really did help me in the long run. I also know that I didn't have all my stuff. I didn't get to replace everything. I know there was some more things in my mother's jewelry that now that I've unpacked, I still haven't found, but I'm letting it go. It's just like, okay, it's done. I also feel like I've changed. I don't know if you do, Jeannie. Um, I've changed quite a bit. I've learned a lot more patience. I find that when I'm sorting out things, because I'm still unpacking a couple of boxes now, I think I'm down to about the last 10 or so. It's so exciting. But I'm purging better than I did before. I know what I want to hold on to and why. But I also know that I don't have to have it all perfectly organized. I'm just putting it in cubies, in categories. All right, this is all sewing, or this is crocheting stuff. This is da da da, and I'm just putting it into little items. I've got the rest of my life to sort it all out and work it so that it's organized and pretty. The main thing is to get it put away where I can't see it. It'll take me another year to get the inside organized, I'm pretty sure. And then I'll start with all the boxes that were originally in the shed outside that are still there that I haven't touched. And I've got to think about that because I need to go in there before the weather turns too bad, because I need to find out where is my Christmas tree and my Christmas decorations, because this year they are going up for sure. We spent Christmas in isolation, remember, away from our ornaments and everything. And I also want to say that I am so grateful for all of you walking the path with me. I'm hoping that you learned a lot by watching us go through this. I seriously doubt I could have done it alone. I know that my neighbor next door, did wonderful things to keep me. She invited me over to eat regularly. And I probably went more often than I normally would because, it was all part of my mental health. Hanging on to my mental health was really important to me. I also learned that I could be fair and friendly with the insurance people. And funny enough, something happened this week, where I had bought these new lights. Did I show you? I showed you the new lights, right? I bought these new lights for my bathroom, and I then heard there was a situation where maybe I'd gone over my allowance, and yet that the renovation people had offered to cover the cost of the lights because there was such a mess up with them. And it's really funny because as soon as I heard that, I wrote and said, something? I have no wish for them to pay more than they need to. Therefore, if I did, I said I didn't think I had overgone the allocation for electricals, but if I did, um, I will happily have that deducted from my check. Because my integrity wouldn't let me do that. And I know a lot of people would say, you've got to be joking, get whatever you can from them. That's not who I am. And I got a letter back from them both saying, you are incredibly fair and honest. That felt good. That's what we've noticed with you all along. your integrity shines through. And I it was worth it to me to just know that that was true. And I'm pretty certain they don't deal with that a whole lot. And so I think I did get firm. I believe in firm, fair, and friendly. I think I only needed to get firm on one point, which is when they wanted me to sign off on the documents when they didn't realize it wasn't finished yet. And I said, hey, I'm willing to do it, but not until it's finished. I didn't need to cry, to stamp my foot or swear at anybody. Right? I found great serenity in it. I don't know about you, Jeannie. I seem to grow in my serenity during this whole period. I realized this was going to take a lot longer than I thought it was. And if I could get rid of my expectation and timelines and just work on it's going to take as long as it takes, I was a lot happier. And my serenity has changed, no doubt about it. I was originally told that this would be over $100,000 worth of damage. That's what they told me, that in the first 24 hours. It was what they call a major fire, in as much as it would cost over $100,000 to correct it. The final bill came in just under $250,000. I'm glad I wasn't insuring me. How about that? And the only room that was destroyed was my bathroom and my roof, and everything. But the smoke damage went through the whole place. The water damage went through half the house. So a lot was damaged, even though the fire was contained into one room. Jeannie's talking about the fact that she spent an unusual Thanksgiving signing up and prepared meals, yes, from the local community. She always did Thanksgiving for all of her immediate family. Yeah. She was saying they actually did invite one person to join them for Thanksgiving. Yeah. It's funny. I know that I was amazed that when the pandemic hit, that my neighbor decided that instead of having her family in her bubble, they were allowed to have 2 people in their bubble. Instead of bringing family members into their bubble, they chose their neighbors on either side. What an incredible decision that was. Yes, Janie is saying her insurance company said the same thing, that they were very fair about paying for meals out. Yes, I think I only had 2 or 3 meals out during that time. And even then, I didn't go to a 5-star hotel, So can you believe that really cost, just under $250,000 to replace everything? How many of you know that I rest easier at night knowing that everything is up to code? The reason it cost so much is they used good people. Right? They didn't get things down on the low grade. The people who did this work were good people. This house was not up to code. And therefore, a lot of things had to be upgraded at my cost to bring it up to code. But what I know now is that it is. Yeah, Jeannie's saying when she went out to me, we paid the tips ourselves. Yes, I did as well. And didn't buy the most expensive foods. No, I didn't. I just went to the local pub or something. And there was a pub at the hotel, so that's where I went, into the pub there and just had a pub meal. But it was so nice to have something with fries. Was just awesome. And so I look at it. Here we are, both of us, both Jeannie and myself. Starting life again. And I would ask you as viewers, what have you learned from our journey. Jeannie's saying, we're still lucky we still have our generator. I don't have a generator, but it's something I certainly, if I had the wherewithal, I probably would like one, because in the winter here we lose power a lot, and when we lose power, we also lose our water. So I have learned that thing. I now in the winter, make sure I've got water in my guest bathtub. For flushing in case there's a tree goes down somewhere. The high winds have started, because I know that if the power goes out, it's probably nearly always up to 12 to 24 hours before we get it back again. So this is called Have I Got Enough Water to Flush? And it's funny how you sort of just go, and I keep now enough water. I have a round the corner here, you can't see it because this is in the way, but I have a water thing here, filter, and it holds about, I would say, about a gallon of water, but I keep that topped up all the time. Every day before I go to bed, I top it up and then have another jug on top of it to add more if necessary. It's enough water, fresh filtered water for me to drink for a day or two. And that's also, and plus I have a gallon jug full of water in the bathroom as well, drinking water. So, yes, Jeannie is saying, imagine our costs because prices went up so much. Yes, that's a point I hadn't thought about, Jeannie. A good point, right? That even though we thought this was going to be costing so much, the fact that the pandemic drove the price of everything up, would have had an effect as well. Very good point. I hadn't thought about that. So that's part of why it costs $250,000. It frightened me to see the actual cost. And, it was interesting what cost so much. And I probably will have another look at that to see where was the major cost. So, did any of you learn anything from watching us go through this? And if so, let's hear it. The reason I say that is because, I don't believe in coincidences. Here we were, a group of people who get together on a regular basis. And, we have gone through, if you think about it, we've gone through incredible things with viewers going through very difficult times over the last year. And yet, I don't know about you, but I feel I've learned so much from just being part of the group. Jody's saying, I learned everything can change in an instant, and to be prepared with a plan of what valuables to get out of the house in a hurry, and to buy 2 small fire extinguishers, and also to have patience. Yes, I was going to say that the things that I got out of the house in a hurry, it really did surprise me, because I always kept my passport and my wallet close to a door. All right, so in the case of that, I could just grab them on my way out. The interesting thing was when the fire happened, I took my phone, my computer, my chargers, one computer, I have 2. I took one computer, chargers for everything. I grabbed those so fast, you cannot believe it. And all the, the wires that go with it, you know what I mean? The cables and everything. I was ripping them out of things, and I had them like this, and I took them outside. I sent the fire guys in to get my wallet and my passport. I'm quite surprised, which tells you that my life has changed. And actually, now that I think about it, I have not put my wallet and my passport close to a door again, but I think I will. I will now, relocate them. At the moment, I've got them hidden away. But I will now relocate them. Not that I'm planning to do it again, but just in case. All right, this is from, I always like to quote Wayne Dyer to you. And This I thought was really valuable. It said, forgiveness is the most powerful thing you can do for yourself on the spiritual path. If you can't learn to forgive, if you can't learn to forgive, you can't forget about getting to the higher levels of awareness. Your affirmation is, I forgive everyone, including myself. Kimmy, how about you write that up on your mirror? I forgive everyone, including myself. And you know, the comment that you made was, but they keep coming back into your life. I didn't hear the why. How does that happen? Are they family? And that's why the negativity keeps coming back. Jeannie's saying that the cost of doors tripled in the time. That is amazing. Yes, wood became very expensive. I'm pretty certain the cost of my trusses for my roof, they must have gone skyrocketing up as well. But, not my problem. I also know that I got a quote to redo my bathroom, and it ended up costing me a third more. But I have a bathroom that I give thanks for every day. So, it is what it is, right? And it is a wow bathroom. When I say a wow bathroom, it is like, I just laugh because I think about all the time that I traveled in my life, and I just loved going to hotels because I loved their bathrooms. And I've got one now that looks like that. I love it. It just makes all the difference every morning. And I didn't realize that it is not a room that other people see. It's my bathroom, not the guest bathroom. But boy, if anybody deserves to be pleased every day at the look of her bathroom, it's me. You know what I mean? And so I look at it and go, I am so grateful for so much. The fire taught me a lot. The fire, or even though it was so difficult, the fire taught me so much and gave me so much more patience. And I really learned, for example, I even though I was ready to sign the documents this week, I just made a decision. Okay, I'm ready to sign them now, even though there's one thing that still needs to be done, but it's not a major. I just said I will sign the documents next week. I'm ready to do that now. And now I'm busy, getting that organized, and I'm happy. It feels really strange somehow. But I am so grateful for so much. One of the things that really amazes me all right, I'm not sure what Jeannie's saying here. What was dangerous? Getting it was dangerous? But he was insistent. Yes, there's certain things, that, I know for you, the most important thing to get out was your dog. I totally get that. But then what did you go back to get? Case, was it? Let me know. So I look at it and go, it was a huge learning year. A huge learning year for me. And I look at it and go, I know that each of my viewers has had a huge learning year in different ways. All right. And if we keep talking about these things that happen to us, if we keep talking about our feelings, as these things happen, we realize that the more we talk honestly about them, the more we shorten that period of recovery. And I think that is the important thing to know. I understand, we were talking about our viewer and the viewer having had that negative experience that she couldn't correct. But, if she talks about it, she will shorten the time it takes to recover from that and realize there's nothing she can do about it, nothing she can do to change it. No money will change it. No amount of tears will change it. No amount of anything will change it. It just is what it is. The tape will be there in your head forever. But you can move on, and it's okay to be happy. Oh, isn't that beautiful? Jeannie's saying she put up 2 bird feeders, and it took just 2 days for all her birds to return. I'm looking forward to doing that. I found a bird feeder, and I did buy a couple of bells of grain for the winter months. Oh, and a big woodpecker even visited one of the feeders. Yes, it is fun, isn't it? So I'm looking forward to doing that. I'm really looking forward to doing that. I had a feeling of frustration this week just before I go, and I wanted to talk about that. My doctor has become cranky. I've always really enjoyed going to see him, and we've always been very collaborative about what's going on with me and what isn't. And what I've noticed is just in the last couple of times that I had talked to him, he's got quite cranky. And not only that, he started to reverse things that he said, previously. And then I tried to think, wait a minute, what's going on? When he was cranky one day, I thought that's one thing. But then when he was cranky again, when I spoke to him yesterday, I thought, And instead of thinking anything else, I thought, I wonder what's changed in his life. And I suddenly got great compassion, because can you imagine being a doctor through all this pandemic? Can you imagine that the patient's level probably has shifted? And that my pathetic little need for more medications is not as important as somebody who probably is in ICU. I really thought about that. But then I also thought, something? I need to speak to him about this, because I need to know if it's something I'm doing, in which case I would like to know about it, which will make him more aware that he's become pretty cranky. The other thing that I found was that, he asked me about my blood pressure, and I said, well, the average is X. He said, I don't want the average. And I said, well, okay, what do you want? I apologize. If you tell me what it is you want, I will give it to you. I want to know days. What have you had? So then I started to reel off, because I kept, it's all in the memory, and I'm just going through the thing, scrolling it through. And then, and I started off by saying, I don't think I need blood pressure medication, because my blood pressure has been pretty good. And I started to scroll through, and then I hit where, remember Jody knows about this, but I hit one day when I was just on 100, and then the next day I was 98. And he said, stop. Did you just say you went down to 100 and then 98? And I said, yes. I said, some days I relax more than others. And what I realized, of course, was that although my average is probably around about 130 over 70, for those of you who understand those sort of figures, that included some days where I was really low and some days that I was slightly higher than that. So, it was interesting, because he agreed that no, he was not going to put me on my heart meds. It's good. Jeannie's asking, is he getting a lot older? Well, we both are, Jeannie. He's getting older at the same rate that I am. I would say he's probably in his 50s now. Because I got him young. But the interesting thing is that I think you guys know that I'm probably I question quite a few things when he says things. For example, he said, da 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 da, but you're diabetic, and I said, wait a minute. You told me I was pre-diabetic. No, I didn't. You tested diabetic the first time we tested you. I'm going, he told me I was pre-diabetic and that it would only become diabetic if I got 2 of these readings in a row. And I didn't. So I said, what was my last A1C? And he said, he looked it up and he said 6. And I said, so does that make me diabetic? He said, no, you're diabetic, but you're controlling it well with your diet. I decided to leave it there. I don't know if I failed a glucose intolerance test. That's where I failed. But other than that, so anyway, but I just, I put the phone down after that. What else did he have an issue about? Oh, I asked for my diuretics back. And then I thought about it. When I put the phone down, I thought about it and I thought, what has changed? What is the difference now? And I thought, he's doing this on the phone now. And I can hear he has to have his assistant with him. I'm not quite sure. I think that's so she can take notes or whatever. And I suddenly thought, maybe what is happening now is that he has to be more careful about how he says things legally than when he would probably just be chatting to me one-on-one. I wonder whether that has had an impact. I'll find out. Because, I got to tell him, buddy, you are getting cranky. And I also wondered whether, I should check with his assistant whether he's just cranky with me or whether it's with everybody. Jody's saying it looks like a return to telehealth is on the horizon. I want to tell you something that I didn't even bother to go to see my doctor. I think we're conditioned now, that maybe that's something different as well, Jody, that we as patients know we don't have to go in, right? We as patients know we don't have to go in anymore. And therefore, why would I drive half an hour to go and sit in a doctor's office with all the germs around, and then drive back again for another half an hour? We know we don't have to do that anymore. Get the idea? So we don't, right? This is, I now phone and say, can you get him to phone me? I need more meds. I think that's interesting somehow. That telehealth has changed, and if that is true, then it may have changed their income. Does it change their income a lot as well? What do you think? I'm thinking about the call that used to, or the visit that used to take at least 15 minutes or so, now takes 3 or 4 minutes, maybe 5, 10. But are they being paid less for a teleconference, a phone call type thing, as opposed to seeing you in person? But I find as well, what was I doing? Oh yes, I had a call from my specialist, my respirologist, and he was telling me that clients prefer not to come in now, and he thinks that will remain regardless of the pandemic. He thinks that will be the after effect of the pandemic. So how do you feel? Are you, I still went to my doctor when I had stuff that I really needed to talk about, but I'm not going to go there to have my medications renewed. No. All right. And before I go, I did manage to do one more seasonal task. I try to share with you a feeling of organization because what I did this week was, and I wanted to show you something. Hang on one second. The seasonal task I did this week was to clean out my spice drawer. And, I have a lot of spices. But what I discovered is I have a lot of spices and things that are taking up a lot of space for no reason. So what I did this week was I bought myself some of these little things at the dollar store. Okay, and you just sort of clip them together. And then I took all my bottles that were half full or less, and I put them into smaller containers. All right. And as you can imagine, 3 of these take up a little bit more space than 1 of these. So now I've got a whole lot of clean area in I've still got the same amount of spices in there. It's just taking up a whole lot less room. Does that make sense to everybody? And you're going, are you going to label these, Sal? Yeah, I keep meaning to do them. I'll leave them out, so I do it. But the truth is, this is about reorganizing to make it better space. And I've kept the empty ones of these because I will have some things that, for example, I will be able to put my dried tomatoes in one of these or my dried mushrooms or whatever. I can put them into smaller containers than the ones they're in. So basically, I get everything filtered down. And one of the things I was looking at as well is I have a drawer that is not spices, but is things like I've got chia seeds and popcorn and quinoa and flax seeds. But you notice something, half full, less than half full. It's a smaller container, but not very much in there. Needs to be topped up. So, again, if I downsize these, how much more room will I make and keep the bulk elsewhere, not in my kitchen? I just need enough for the month. Think about that. And so this is all part of my winter. Is going to be going through my cupboards. And I realized that I'm starting to take stuff out of my cupboard that is in my laundry room, which I use as my storage area, and bringing it into the, I've got a pantry cupboard, a double pantry cupboard here, right next to me here. And I'm starting to organize that. That's quite exciting as well. So that's, moving forward. That's a step forward for me. I hope you've enjoyed the broadcast. I hope you know that it is an important lesson for us all that we need to forgive ourselves and others, but we don't have to. Remember, pain is inevitable. Suffering is a choice. So you look at it and go, what is it you're hanging on to that is making your life miserable? And if it's a feeling of resentment or anger or frustration or whatever, do something about it or let it go. Don't keep nagging about it. Yes, Jeannie is saying she bought one of those pull-out spice racks for her kitchen cupboard, and she loves it. Yes, I must admit, you know what I did, Jeannie? Oh, it's too long. I had one of those that was a tiered one like that, but I turned it upside down so I could put it in a drawer, and then I bent the legs of it, so now I've got it in a drawer the other way up because I'm creative. Um, because I didn't want it in a cupboard, I wanted it in a drawer. So remember that we choose so much. Whenever we are being plagued by a feeling, we choose whether to carry it with us. And once we get that message, when we get it, even if we're not perfect at letting go, if we understand that if it's a feeling, it's within our control. Once you've got that step clearly in your mind, you will lessen the time it takes to recover. And what the other part of it is that you will have terrible things happen in your life. But whether that terrible thing is illness or, look at poor Charlotte with, smashing that tooth right the way down to the bone. It's just like those, terrible things happen to us all. But most of them we survive. If you think about it, it might be painful, it might be disruptive to our lives, it might be a huge loss to us. But when we look at it later, we learn a lot. We learn that we are stronger than we thought we were. We learn that we can handle more than we thought we could. And we learn that there are people in our lives that will still be there through it all. And that is really important. And so you look at it and go, my fire was a small one compared to Jeannie's. But I also know that comparing it would not be fair to either of us. Jeannie had a husband and children and to help and so forth. I didn't. So it's not a fair comparison. We all have different things that we go through, and the comparison is not relevant. Jeannie had a terrible time, all right, and had to completely rebuild her life. I didn't. So the comparison is not there. We all have our own lives, and it is our own ability to cope with it that's important. And so I look at it and go, the fire in my house is nothing if I want to compare it with somebody who's really ill. It was inconvenient and it was uncomfortable and it was stressful, but at least that's all. So, it's like, be aware that every one of our viewers are dealing with something in their lives. And for them, it is as big as a fire. For them, can you imagine what it's like for Erin waiting to find out, what her biopsy says? Or anybody that's waiting for test results to come through, it's just like, it's a horrible time. Or, as I've recommended to people, it's a really good time to say to yourself, hey, I have nothing very serious to worry about until I get those results. And so, my love to you all. And I pray that you all will understand it's just today that we need to be concerned with. Today is the day that you can say, maybe I need to make a list of the things that I have in my house. Or maybe I need to walk around with my camera and actually take a picture of everything I have that is of value in case I have a fire, and keep it in a special folder somewhere backed up, so that if I ever had a fire, I would know. I have a friend of mine who goes around and just takes the serial numbers, shows a picture of the television set, turns it around and the serial number, in case he has a theft. Very clever. You don't, some of you are going, I'd rather, take the notes. Whatever works for you. So be aware that over-insuring is an absolute waste of money until the day you have a fire. Then it is a blessing. I assure you, I was blessed on that one. Because I was well insured, I had a lot of things upgraded and covered. And I am very grateful for that. Tonight, we will be talking. We're not going to be cooking tonight. And I might cook a roast, but that'll be going in the background. What I wanted to talk tonight about was about some hacks that I found that I thought you might find interesting. And, it's been a while since we've done any of those sort of things. So we're going to do some of those. I hope you enjoyed. This is Dear Mama Sal saying, I love you dearly. Thank you for being here. Jeannie, I am so glad that we're both here a year later. And that we're both still got a sense of humor. This is Dear Mama Sal saying, things happen. Bye-bye for now.